Join.
Do you,
This
am
is so
I doing,
complicated.
do I have
I
to do
think we're
anything
live
else?
everywhere.
Yeah, wonderful.
The problem is I cannot hear our guest.
So complicated.
Oh, 1 second.
I think we're live everywhere.
All right, Susie, you should have your audio going through Instagram because that's where I'm getting.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I
Okay.
hope.
You should have your audio going through.
Okay, we'll get there.
Howdy, everyone. Welcome to, is it Monday? No, it's Tuesday. Welcome to Tuesday afternoon. I don't even know what day of the week it is. That's how great we're doing. Anyway, while we're getting our audio hooked up, I think everybody out in social media land can hear me. I just can't hear my guest.
Can you hear
But
me
my
now?
guest is Susie, and I'm probably going to mess up her last name so she can fix it when she gets some sound. Susie Seren, a certified homeopath who operates an e-commerce business offering homeopathic and natural pet products. She believes that natural alternatives should help give pet parents hope for their pets' health and well-being without all the side effects of conventional medicine. Where have I heard that before? In addition to having already helped several thousands of pets naturally, she's committed to encouraging pet adoption. Well, we're all for that as well. She's gained a lot of experience from years spent in the pet health field. She earned her degree in homeopathy at the School of Classical Homeopathy in Canada, which is a partner of the European Academy of Natural Medicine in France. Okay, Susie, you're going to say hi so I can see if I can.
Hi, can you hear me?
Nope,
Hold on.
I cannot hear her.
She has to rejoin the Instagram.
You have to rejoin the Instagram.
Okay.
We just invited her.
And now?
There.
Yay!
Now I can hear you.
Wonderful.
Yay!
Technology.
Technology. It is so wonderful sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. So is your computer audio off?
Now
There
it
we
is.
go. Okay, now we got rid of our echo too. All right, it's all good. Okay, so what we want to talk about today in particular is supporting senior pets with homeopathy. November was Senior Pet Month, but that's okay. We're just a little bit behind. We kind of had a lot going on in November, but our senior pets certainly are with us every day of the year, every week of the year, every month of the year. So it really doesn't matter. And anybody who's been following me for a while knows that I really have a soft spot for seniors. And my husband and I have been pretty committed over the years to adopting senior dogs. And it's really weird right now because we have a 14-year-old, but then we have a puppy and a 6-year-old. So that's kind of weird for us. And we have all these kittens. So, but I do have 3 cats who are maybe considered seniors, or like 15. So, so tell us a little bit about your homeopathy practice. And I'm really interested to know what your e-commerce site is about and what you offer through that.
Oh, that's great. Well, yeah, definitely. So the e-commerce that we have is we offer natural and homeopathic remedies for pets mostly. So basically it started a little bit. And by the way, I own also a dog that just entered his senior years. He's 8 years old, a golden doodle. So like this is I'm super excited to talk about this today. So yeah, background in dental health, worked around that for 15 years. My husband had a background in e-commerce and marketing, and my mother-in-law at the time, and she still is, a homeopath. And one day we were just looking for a whole new challenge. We wanted a new idea, wanted to definitely serve other people, and we love pets. So we just thought this was a great opportunity because she had created a line of product at the time for pets. The only challenge is that she was only French speaking. So she had very limited reach. So we thought, hey, I think we could definitely help more pets, reach more pets. So why not just combine our expertise together and create this product line and extend it to English-speaking people, which is a lot more in the world. So that's how it started. At the time, I was really already into natural products and things like that. But like as the more I was learning about homeopathy, the more I loved it. And that's why I decided to go do my course and get my degrees as well at the same time. So just to make sure we do something of a good quality and make sure we offer the best products possible in the best possible way. So fast forward today, here we are. So yeah.
So you have an e-commerce site where you have homeopathic products available for pets.
Mhm. Yeah.
And what is that
exactly.
website?
It's called Zumalka.com. So Zumalka. So that's what it is.
Zumalka.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I am a holistic veterinarian, and it's really interesting because a lot of people confuse being a homeopathic veterinarian with being a holistic veterinarian. And so
Yeah.
holism, being a holistic veterinarian, means I have a lot of different things in my toolbox. Homeopathy
Yeah.
may or may not be one of them. Homeopathy is a very specialized
Yeah.
treatment
Yeah.
program and protocol. And it's, I think, very, very powerful. So the premise behind homeopathy, and this is something I say with food therapy as well, is that like treats like. And the thing with homeopathy is everything is diluted down so much. So it's funny, when I used to have, I had a couple of horse boarding training lesson programs, stables, through my career, in addition to everything else that I do. And so at one point we had 100 lesson students a week, which is a huge number of kids and adults. And the thing that I used to try to get through to them was, when you're speaking to your horse or giving your horse a cue, we all want to scream. And a lot of us tend to train our dogs that way too, and our cats. Like, we just want to scream. And what we need to do is whisper, because when we whisper and ask politely, we get just an incredible response versus the kicking, pulling, screaming, wailing. And so I kind of equate that to homeopathy, because homeopathy is like whispering at the body and saying, hey, look over here. I'd really like to repair this. And to me, that's what homeopathy is. And when I first got into alternative, complementary, whatever we want to call them, therapies, one of my clients was a homeopath. She was a third generation homeopath. And she actually grew up in the house that was on the property that my practice was on. And my practice was in what had been the barn for her horses. And so it was kind of fun when she would come back to the practice, and she would bring her cats. And she was a very interesting person, because all of her animals were left intact, because we know that neutering changes a lot of things with the body. So she had a bunch of intact cats, which for a lot of people, that would be like, I could never do that. And she didn't vaccinate. She fed them raw food. And she treated everything with those cats homeopathically, including cancers, and was so incredibly successful. And she was a third generation homeopath. And when I said to her, hey, I like, what I know about homeopathy, we can put in a thimble. I know so little. She brought me the entire course on tape, all the books, all the workbooks. She's like, here you go. You can, study all this. And I got about 1 week into it and said, no, I can't. Like, this is a lot. And I really feel like for homeopathy, you've got to, like, it's got to be your one and only focus. And my thing is, I use so many different therapies that I couldn't devote the time and energy to it. So I asked her if she would help me, and she said, oh, I don't know nearly enough. I'm like, you're a third generation homeopath. What do you mean you don't know enough?
Yeah, it is it's intimidating when you see it at first, and you have even if you're into natural stuff, it's such a different way of thinking. It's a whole different other concept. But once you dig into it, and you just find all its amazing things it can do, it's so powerful, like you said. But the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, like your friend said. So it's just, there is just so much, it's infinite how much you could learn. There are like so many ingredients and remedies you can work with. They do so many things. They work on the mental and physical level. It's crazy. So but it's definitely what's great about homeopathy. it's been around for a few hundred years, and it's widely used in India nowadays, England, many other European countries, but not as much in North America. However, I think it was the World Health Organization, they unveiled that it was the second most widely used system of medicine in the world, which is crazy. That's like over 200 million people that use it every day. And I feel like here we don't see that as much. So it's definitely, I find, a form of medicine that deserves our attention to help us treat our pets naturally.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest battles that we've had is the AHVMA. So the AVMA, the American Veterinary Medical Association, tried to ban it. They tried to ban it in England. And, for me, I just look at that, and that's the traditional veterinarians being scared that we might actually have something that works, that doesn't cost, thousands of dollars and isn't going to support the pharmaceutical industry, whatever. That's another whole conversation. But it's been very difficult for homeopaths because they've kind of hit up against these roadblocks and sanctions and don't you dare. And frankly, it might be easier for someone like you without a veterinary degree, because a veterinarian with a veterinary degree can lose their degree for practicing something that they don't want us to practice, versus they really have no recourse with someone like you. You're a homeopath. And so I mean, I guess they could say you're prescribing, but you're prescribing homeopathic medicines that they don't think work. So you're not really prescribing medicine.
They consider it as drugs, but then on the other side, sometimes it's definitely a weird battle, but it's been going on for like every couple of years. It comes back, and then people are scared, but it comes in cycles and then it goes. So that's the reality.
So for someone who wanted to try homeopathy to repair whatever's going on with their animals, my understanding of homeopathy, it's kind of like dealing with Chinese herbs. They're so specific, based more on a pattern diagnosis than just saying, hey, my dog's got kidney failure, which homeopathic remedy do I use? So how do you sift through that? And so if somebody, and I haven't been on your website, so I haven't seen what the remedies are. Like, some homeopaths only want to use a single remedy at a time, and then there are other companies that will do combination remedies. So which way do you prefer to go, or is it combination?
That is such a good question. I think it's one of the first questions we come to when we first encounter homeopathy. So, and so we've all probably walked into a natural food, health food store, and then we come into the homeopathy aisle, and then we see some combination remedies and single products that are sold. So the single remedies being just the one ingredient on the label. There's only one active ingredient. So we all question, well, what is best? Like, we see combination remedies, they have like an illness name on it, and then you have the single active ingredient, which is in Latin, and you have no clue, like, I want to help my pet, but like, what does this even mean? So, and that's the thing. And that's why I find homeopathy seems intimidating at first, but once you kind of grasp a little bit the concepts, and I mean, if you want, you go to a bookstore, find a little homeopathy 101 book, and you'll see you can kind of navigate pretty easily through like treating your pet on your own at home, if you want to, with a single remedy. But combination remedy is basically a mixture of several single homeopathic remedies in one bottle that are commonly recommended to relieve various conditions. So, for example, let's say your pet has kidney disease, so they'll just put in one bottle all the remedies that help any kinds of symptoms that are related to kidney disease. So you take that, and I find it's very good if you're very new to homeopathy. It'll do the trick. So you take that remedy and you hope that in that bottle, there will be that one remedy or two maybe that will address your pet's needs. As if you know what you're doing and you just, well, not it's fine. It's just, let's say you have a book or you consulted with a homeopath, and then that's when we ideally try to go with just one single ingredient, which is best. I think in short, it really depends on how comfortable you are using it and what you're looking to address. But single remedies, what they'll do is that you're able to go, and that's what I love about homeopathy, is just you can go so much into detail. It's crazy. Like, just if you can have one illness, let's say you go, and that's the difference between conventional and holistic or homeopathy, is that you go, let's say, to the vet, your pet has maybe cat flu. Well, maybe, I don't know, you tell me what, there might be just a few options, but in homeopathy, we'll just really analyze, okay, what kind, what are this, what's the tearing? Is there sneezing? Yes or no? Is there fever? It'll just bring you down to a variety of remedies that you can give. And if you're able to find that one remedy that really addresses specifically the symptoms that the unique pet is experiencing, then that's the best remedy you can give to just stimulate the body's natural healing responses. And it's the best way of doing naturally, and it'll, like, you're going to be able to pinpoint what's the actual problem. So what is best? There aren't really, it depends on the condition too. So I find combination remedies are just, they're a great quick fix, simple to use. They're recommended for minor acute health problems, but if single remedies allow you to actually work on treating more the root cause of the problem, and they're really good for long-term and more complex ailments. But I'd probably recommend seeing a homeopath for those, because that's when you kind of dig in deeper to know exactly what's best. But I would say in classical homeopathy, single remedies are the ideal.
Right. Okay. And that's what I've always heard, that ideally we want single remedies, but most people don't have access to a homeopath. And I've looked through the books to go down those trees and those decision lines. And it's sort of like with Chinese medicine, we ask weird questions like, where do they sleep? Are they under the blankets? Are they on the cold tile floor? Are they panting at night? Are they vocalizing, at night or in the morning? Do they have seizures, at 3 a.m. or do they have seizures at 3 p.m.? And so we basically chunk it down so that we can be as specific as possible. And that's ideally what you would want in homeopathy. Okay. All right. So, all right, we're going to talk about some specific senior things. Now, here's the thing. If somebody had me on and said, okay, from a Chinese medicine standpoint, what food would you feed a senior with arthritis? I would have a list of questions that I would want to know. Is it worse when it's warm out? Is it worse when it's cold out? Is it worse when they first get up? Is it worse when it's raining? So we're going to touch on a few things, and I understand that this is not a one size fits all, but maybe we can point people in directions of some remedies that might be helpful. So with homeopathic remedies, do you have them in tinctures or pellets or both?
I have them in both. So we have both liquid, but we also have what we call cell salts, homeopathic cell salts. They come in little tablets. So depending on the needs, we work with both of those.
Okay. And then somebody asked, what do you recommend homeopathically? This isn't necessarily a senior question, but
it's fine.
Like somebody knows they have to go get a vaccination. Is there something you would recommend prior to giving the vaccines, and then something you recommend after the vaccines? And does it vary depending on what the vaccine is?
That is such a good question. I love the vaccine questions. Yes, I usually the way I love to work is that we like to prepare the body before when we know there's going to be a vaccine that's going to be administered, maybe like 3 days before. We personally work a lot with combination remedies just because we like to work with people that are new to homeopathy and even the ones that are used to. So we have like a few ingredients in there that will help detox the body out. So we kind of prepare with the same ingredients. Usually we just give that one. We like to keep things simple. Thuya is a really good remedy. So you can take it in like 3 days before. The body will be ready. So when you have a vaccine, you're being vaccinated, then already the body will have started doing its work, and usually we'll recommend to give the remedy just to detox the vaccine out for like a 10 to 30 days after, just to do the work. And
is that giving it every day?
Yes, every day. Yes, every day. And sometimes depending on the number of vaccines or the pet's condition, sometimes we'll also do like a little additional homeopathic detox on top of that, depending on what they need. And depending on the vaccine doesn't really make a difference. Usually we just try any types of vaccines in homeopathy. There are certain homeopathic remedies you can give that will help avoid the adverse effects and side effects of vaccines. Yeah.
And do you use Listen for the rabies vaccine, or do you just go with the Thuya and say that's going to be fine?
Well, I think in our right now we have Thuya, we have Silicea, and what are some Echinacea in the mix, aluminum. I think I'd have to look it up. Sometimes there are just so much, but those are definitely some remedies you can use. Solidago too. It's good to help get rid of stuff out of the body. So I think those are the ones we use, but I think, like we said before, there are just so many remedies in homeopathy you can use. Like you have a wide range. And what's great is that even if you don't give the exact precise remedy that they need for like that would be a perfect fit, it'll still do a great job and it's not going to cause any side effects. So that's kind of the wonderful things about homeopathy.
That is one of the wonderful things about homeopathy. It's sort of like the body takes what it needs and uses it, and then when it doesn't need it, just kind of says, okay, don't need that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. So what would you say would be your top picks for senior dogs with arthritis or hind end weakness? And that's probably two separate things.
For arthritis, I find, and we see that a lot, is that sometimes one thing to first ask yourself is, are we sure it's arthritis in homeopathy? And that's why we ask so many questions. We're just, when your pet gets up in the morning, like, are they better and like after a bit of time, or are they like hurting all day long? Then it might just not be arthritis in those cases. So we try to be very careful and ask a lot of questions to make sure it's not injury or things like that. But I would say roost tucks. It's a great remedy for joint pain, arthritis pain. It's also as well as good for acute and chronic. So I like that one because it's such a very you can use it to all the sauces. So, and when the pet feels better after movement, also it brings just relief to the aches and pains. So that's definitely a good remedy I would use. Bryonia, especially if there's pain that's made worse when the pet moves, when you feel it's just worsening, that's a really good product. And one thing that's good to check is also, and things to ask sometimes to make sure we're really spot on as much as possible, is to ask those questions. So is your pet worse in, let's say, dry weather or humid weather? Because that could change the remedy. So for example, Bryonia would be if your pet is worse in cold, dry weather, then that's a perfect remedy for the pet. So And yeah, so and for the other remedy, Tux, then it's the opposite. If there's the arthritis is worse when there's wet weather, if it's raining outside, if it's then that's a good remedy for it. So there, those, like you said, in Chinese medicine, we ask all those questions, we could go really deep. But like we said too, even if like you're new and you're just like, oh, I don't want to like do it wrong and not give something that's going to cause any, well, it's not the end of the world if that's what you have in hand, and it pretty much is what your the portrait of what your pet needs, that you can still give it a try. Worst case scenario, if you see a little worsening, or you just stop it, but it's very rare. There are usually no side effects.
With the products listed on your website, do you have descriptions under there of what they would be used for?
Yep, exactly.
Okay,
so we if you go, there are ingredients, but there's a short description and you have all that. Yeah, everything is there for even.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So dogs, so we're talking seniors with vestibular syndrome and nausea and falling and dizziness. Is there something specific we get? And that's probably two separate things, because we've got the dizziness and the falling, the vestibular problem. The nausea is secondary to that, but it might be a secondary remedy as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I know there are like just in our self salts that we use a lot of the time, we have one that's Cali Foss, which is very good for any nerve brain related issues. So because it's actually a salt that we have in our body that's in our brains, in our nervous system. So we use that to help with anything attached to like cognitive or yeah. So when there's just if there's a loss of balance and things like that, just anything nerve related, sometimes it can help. But for sure, there's always a remedy that we can give for something like that. I just, right now, it's not coming to my mind.
That's okay. So let's say for somebody with a pet with arthritis, and so they've got a damp arthritis, and you pick the Roostox or whichever you feel is the best one for their particular symptoms. Because this is an older pet with arthritis, the arthritis isn't really going to go away. So are they using this like daily long term, or is it something that they're using for a short period of time and then stopping, or how do they do that?
That's such a good question. So the way homeopathy works is that you will only give a remedy as if the pet has the symptoms. It's not for prevention. So as long as the pet has the condition, if you have to kind of be very observant, but you give it, and eventually if he kind of stabilizes and is better after a few days, you can try and stop giving the remedy. And if it comes back, then you can put him back on. Or another way you can do it is just maybe reduce and give it maybe every other day instead of every day. So you can kind of wean him off slowly, but eventually you might come at a point where you might have to give it for forever, because there are some problems that don't go away, like kidney failure, arthritis, and things like that. So it just, at least it'll give him a better quality of life, and he'll feel much more comfortable. And so it depends on every pet, of course, but I would say yes,
Right.
If the issues are there, you can give it.
You can give it, and again, you're not going to do any harm by giving it repeatedly. Now, a classical homeopath is, I'm sure, going to say homeopathy works best when used alone. But we know that when we have these senior pets, sort of like senior people, unfortunately, they end up on a boatload of drugs or supplements. Can homeopathy be used? Let's say somebody has a dog who cannot walk without their NSAIDs. Heaven forbid, because we don't like to use them, but somebody has a dog that's on it, they can't get up and move. If they're not on it, can they use the homeopathy along with it? And sometimes will they see that they're able to decrease the dose of the NSAID by adding on the homeopathy?
Yes, we see a lot of that on a regular basis. Our goal is to, like you said, the classical homeopathy will be just one remedy, watch and see what happens. But when you're a pet owner, you just become so emotional when your pet is sick, and you don't want to wait out and see if, you just want him to feel better today. So adding and combining other natural products is totally fine. I mean, it'll just make him feel better today, and the homeopathy will still do its job long term. Of course, it depends what you're giving, how much you're giving, but rule of thumb is there's no harm in combining mushrooms, for example, with homeopathy or some herbal medicine. So definitely not a problem. And we also see a lot of pet owners giving drugs at the same time, which, I mean, we definitely respect, of course. So we just have to be careful, maybe not to give them at the same time. We just tell them, just space them out. And sometimes, let's say it's like a diabetes issue, well, sometimes, or thyroid issues, then we try to really manage and be careful. We always say, talk to your vet first, and then we'll work around that. Especially if it's a holistic vet, it always is easier to work with them. But definitely just space them out, and then usually it's good. And yes, sometimes we can wean off the certain remedies depending. But again, I like to go. Everyone is individual and unique in its issues. So yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the different potencies? So we see 30C, 200C, 1M. Can you tell us what those mean and how you know which level to choose? Is one better for acute problems, one better for chronic problems? Like, I just kind of look at them and go, huh?
Yeah, I agree. It can get kind of really, especially when you're new. So I don't want to bury you into many details, but I still want to, my goal is to give enough detail so when you go like at a natural pet health food store, you can at least know your way around. So basically the way it works is that if you look at the label, you'll notice that the following will be listed. So a series of numbers and a series of letters. So like 5C, 10X, 30K. So that's probably what you'll see. So these refer to the scales of dilution used for the homeopathic products. So in regards to the letters, so the X on that's written there, it means it's a scale. So each dilution, each letter represents a dilution. So the X scale means that each dilution is 10 times more diluted than the previous one. It's actually the Roman letter for 10. So that's how you can remember it. I think the most popular scale is probably C. If you go in store, that you see X and C. So C, it means that each dilution is 100 times more diluted than the previous one. So usually the way it works in homeopathy is that as a rule of thumb, is that if you're looking at treating like an acute or a minor issue, you're gonna stay on the lower scale in X and C's. That's perfect. And just talking about numbers, is that you're going to try and stay with the like 6 CH to 30 CH range. And that'll work really just on a more physical level. The more you go up in numbers, let's say you'll see maybe sometimes 200 CH, that means that it's a range that'll work a little bit more deeper in your emotional and your mind. So I would probably, if you're new, you're not sure how to, stick with the 6 to 30, and usually it'll work just nicely around the physical. But if you're looking to go and tap into more like the deeper, like depression, things like that, then first I'd probably recommend going and doing a consultation just to make sure, because when you work like emotionally, you have to be a little bit more careful not to cause any not side effects, but you don't want to worsen them temporarily. So a homeopath, but they might recommend, like sometimes it's not rare, we'll recommend 200 CH for something to help the physical, but still sometimes tap into the emotional. We can do both at the same time. So I hope that helps.
When you're using like the 200, where you're going a little bit deeper, is that
Yeah.
one that you would use long term, or is that sort of a short term and then you drop down?
It depends. It really depends. It depends on how long, let's say, the health issue has been there for. Is it like chronic from like years and years, or has it been there for maybe a few months? Because that can determine whether we'll stay on that for longer. And we just give and observe. We follow up, and we follow up, and then depending on the results, and we might decrease, or we'll just say, okay, stay on that for a while more. But the goal is not to stay on a remedy forever. The goal is always to give what's needed. The body will it's just giving a head start to the body to do its own job that it's capable of doing. So
Sure.
yeah.
So somebody had a question. Their dog had a rabies vaccination and now has fear of loud noises. And I've heard that before. Any thoughts on how to fix that?
I think I missed a little bit of your
Sorry.
first
A
part.
dog that had a rabies vaccine and then following up from that ended up having fear of loud noises.
That's a very good one. So we always try and go back to the root cause. So yes, we can try and address the fear of loud noises, but that's why the question, when did it start? Since when do you have that issue? That question is super important, because we're able, if it's the vaccine, then great, then we can try and then we'll give a remedy to help detox the vaccine. And yes, we can do something about the fear, but we can help and treat that symptom. But what's going to happen, it's going to come back because we didn't treat the initial cause. So so that's why we can work on both sides, but we try to really always treat the root cause as much as possible, because our goal is to make sure that the pet is happy on the long term.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we run into in traditional medicine, in Chinese medicine, in homeopathic medicine, that everybody gets so focused on treating symptoms. Like, I want them to stop itching. So we give them a pill to stop the itch, but we don't address what's causing that itch. Where did it come from? Is it seasonal? Is it all year round? Is it worse at night? Is it worse during the day? Does he have dry skin? Does he have greasy skin? So, it's, with homeopathy, it's no different than any other modality. We have to get to the root cause and not be so focused on, here's a symptom, let me just X out the symptom. Because you're right, we can give steroids to stop scratching, and as soon as we stop or other worse drugs, and as soon as we stop, it comes back with a vengeance, because we never solved the underlying problem. So I totally appreciate that. So, all right. So once again, so can people do homeopathic consultations with you?
Yes.
Phone consultations?
Yes, we actually have video consultations. I have another homeopath that works with us. Her main focus is to help serve just our customers with their questions. She does some consultations, follow-ups. So yes, absolutely. She's great.
Okay. And that would they'd find all that through the zoomalco.com?
Yep. There's a tab for, I think, online consultation. Yeah.
Awesome. Where are you guys located?
We're located in Canada, in Quebec, actually. But I would say that we mostly serve US-based customers, just because.
Well, we have a lot of Canadian followers too, so this is good news for them. Because I think the Canadian Veterinary Association has tried to X out homeopathy as well. So.
We actually stopped. We can still do consultations in Canada, but with Health Canada's regulations right now, we decided not to sell in Canada, but we still love our Canadians. You can still have a consultation if needed. We love you.
What a pain. What a pain. Regulations. And frankly, I don't understand it, because this is a treatment modality that can be so incredibly helpful and really cannot be harmful. I guess their whole thing is, if people are reaching out for homeopathy, herbal, nutritional supplement therapy, they are not getting, their worry is that they're not going and getting an examination and a diagnosis from their veterinarian, and
Yeah.
then they're not using the pharmaceuticals to treat the problem.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like they're worried that animals, let's say somebody has a diabetic animal and they haven't had it diagnosed yet. And so the animal, ends up dying from its blood sugar being so high all the time.
Hmm.
They didn't get that. So I get it. So for those of you who are watching, like if you have an animal that's sick, make sure that you have a traditional veterinarian that's done the diagnostics, that, if somebody has put hands on your animal. And then and even for me with Chinese medicine diagnosis, I still need a physical exam. So if I can't physically put my hands on your animal, then you've got to have a veterinarian who can do that physical exam and give me good notes of this is what I found. And if you have a TCVM veterinarian who tells me what the tongue and pulse and the personality are, that's even better, because you and I don't have to spend time trying to figure that out. So, and there really are not that many veterinary homeopaths out there.
No.
And particularly there are not very many that are seeing clients in person in practice. I think most of them are actually video consults now. So it can be very difficult to find. And so we're really appreciative that you have this resource available and that we were able to get this resource out there. So Zoomalka.com. I'm sure my guys have been posting that link. So I think this is great. I love homeopathy. Like I said, my fits in a thimble. So when I need help, I'm going to reach out to you.
I'll do the same with you. So sure. Absolutely. My pleasure.
No problem. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Everyone, Zoomalka.com. And I don't even know what we have in the works for the rest of the week. Gwen makes my schedule, so I'll show up here when she tells me to. Susie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. It was an honor. Bye-bye.